Hi, welcome to the Point Joint. Today I'm going to show you a video of how to sew your point shoes. In this video I will show you different types of elastic and ribbon that is available to use and what I actually use to sew my shoes. So I hope you'll enjoy the video. Okay, so the first thing I do is I choose a left and a right shoe. I wear Freed Custom point shoes, and because they're handmade, there's usually a shoe that looks or feels a little bit better on the right or the left foot. Machine-made shoes have less variation, so this step may not be necessary. There are a few different types of ribbon that you can choose from depending on what you like. This is a satin ribbon. It is made by Freed, comes in a bolt. You can buy it individually. It's quite a traditional type of satin ribbon. You can also use a satin ribbon with an elastic piece. This one is made by Gaynor Minden. It's called the TLC ribbon, Tender Loving Care. This kind of ribbon can give you the support of satin ribbon, but it allows you to tie the ribbons a little tighter, get rid of that loose looking ribbon that sometimes you can get. It can also be really good for dancers who have sensitive Achilles tendons. You can make your own by inserting a piece of elastic in a traditional satin ribbon, just sewing it right in there. Next, we have elastic ribbon. The type I have here today is made by Body Wrappers. It is also good for dancers who have sensitive Achilles tendons. This type of ribbon is great if you like the feel of your ribbons being really snug with some give to them. It is also good if you like them loose but not baggy looking. I use satin ribbon made by Freed. Next we have elastic. There are many types of elastic. This is a 1-inch pink elastic made by Gaynor Minden, nice and strong. This is a 3/4 inch elastic that I bought from a local materials store. Here we have a mesh elastic. This is made by Sancha. It has a silicone ribbing that keeps it in place on the one side. Feels a little bit sticky. This is called Vamp Elastic by Freed. You can sew it across your vamp, but I don't do that. This is the one I use for around my ankles. Okay, let's get to sewing our point shoes. I usually fold the ribbon before I sew it into the shoe so that it doesn't fray. But before that, let's talk about thread. I use button or carpet thread because it's really strong, but many dancers use regular thread, and some dancers use dental floss. It is easy to find and it's very strong. Where to sew your ribbon? When I first got my point shoes, my teacher showed me this trick. If I fold the heel of the shoe, I will find the perfect spot to sew the ribbon. Generally speaking, the ribbon needs to be sewn below the side of your heel, but not so far down that there's no support. Sewn in the right place, ribbons offer support and pull the shoe into the correct place. If your ribbons look baggy, sometimes it's because your ribbons are sewn too far down the shoe. Over the years, I figured out that my thumbprint, just above the seam, was exactly where I wanted to sew my ribbon. Okay, so here we're going to fold the ribbon so that it doesn't fray. I'm going to place it in the shoe, a thumbprint away from the center seam. Now, I'm actually going to angle it slightly forward. The reason for this is that when I tie it, it will be less likely to bag and again, give some support with that ribbon. Straight up is okay, but I find slightly forward is the best way to go. Now for the exciting part, watching me sew my shoe. As I come across the top, it's important I don't sew into the drawstring. I've done this a few times accidentally, and it'll hinder you from pulling the drawstring tight afterwards. Okay, one side done. Now for the second side. in which I'll repeat many of the things I did the first time, either folding the heel or using my thumbprint, finding that perfect spot for the ribbon, angling it exactly where I want it, and then sewing it down. Here's a tip for those of you that wear pointe shoes that the satin is really stiff to get through, such as Gainer Minden. The satin is a little stiffer. You can use a leather needle which will pierce that satin and make sewing your shoes oh so much easier. So give it a whirl if you're having a hard time getting your needle through your satin. But a sharp needle is usually suffice. Oh, I was about to sew into that drawstring. Better not, just tie it off. And there we go. One side, done. Now I'm going to sew my elastics. One of the sides of this elastic is rougher. It has like a ribbed edge. So I put it down. It tends to stick to your foot. You can sew your elastics on the inside of your shoe. It's very pretty looking. I get a little bit lazy and I sew it right on the outside. You can't see it from a distance. Your audience is usually far away. Or for rehearsals, I don't find it so necessary to have it sewn on the inside. But check with your teacher. They may have a preference. You don't have to sew elastics on your shoes. You can use rosin or water to keep them on your heels. Most dancers I know do put elastic at the back of their shoes. I try not to sew it too close to the back seam, not too far around. It's a bit of trial and error where you're going to sew that elastic so that when you do demi-pointe, your heels stay nice and securely on your foot. Over the years, I've used all kinds of elastic. I wouldn't say one is necessarily better than the other. What I like about this mesh elastic is kind of how see-through it is. So when I have bare feet in my shoes, you can't really see that elastic so much. But again, it's really just a matter of preference. And now you're just watching me sew. Might not be the most exciting thing to watch, actually. But we're almost done. And you can see here, again, I'm avoiding sewing into that drawstring. It's really frustrating when you go to tighten that drawstring and you've nicked that cord inside there. And you have to unsew it and start again. I'm not really sure why I did so many knots in this shoe. Usually just 2 knots will suffice. Okay, let's see if we can speed up this last bit of sewing of the first pointe shoe. Here I fold the ribbon and I cut a little V. It stops it from fraying. You could also burn it with a match, just burn the edge a little bit. Parental guidance. But anyhow, I cut this little V and it works. Okay, now for the next shoe, but let's do it really fast. I wish I could sew my shoes this fast in real life. It would save me a lot of hours. But I do love sewing new shoes. Okay, you get the idea. We're going to move on now to tying the ribbons. first you're going to take the outside ribbon and wrap it around and finish on the inside of the ankle. Then you're going to take the inside, wrap it around underneath, finish on the inside of the ankle, and tie it in a knot. Here, if you find one of your ribbons is longer than the other, which is what will be the case if you tie your ribbons like this, cut it in a V again so it doesn't fray. There are many ways to tie your ribbons. There's not just one way, but this is the way I do it. Because when you tuck it in, you go from inside to outside. It's nice and clean and nice and snug. Tie your drawstring, and you're ready to go. Oops, well, I'm not quite ready to go. I'm going to tie that knot again. There we go. And that's a wrap. Okay, there you have it. I hope you learned something today. Remember, when you put your pointe shoes on, always warm up, and check out my other videos on the pointe joint. Thanks. Bye.